very happy to introduce Lesley Elliot, who says she's very nervous today, but we're going to make her feel comfortable. And you're going to start us off by telling us a bit about yourself and your books.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Well, as Kaz just said, I'm Lesley Elliot. Yeah, I haven't actually been writing and publishing books until I think the first one was 2020 when I actually published one, although I had been writing before that. In fact, I started writing when I was in my 20s, and I allowed them to read the first chapter. They weren't impressed, and it put me right off. So I didn't start writing again until I moved from Birmingham to the Wirral, and I did a course at Liverpool University on creative writing for 3 years, and that gave me the confidence then to start writing again. Since then, I've published 7 books, but it's only been, as I say, since 2020 that I published the first one. I'm not really sure. Do you want me to actually go through the books now, Kaz?
Well, we can talk about them as we go, shall we do
Right.
it? We do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I started off by reading One Child Too Many. Just the other day, and it's really good. You said that's quite a personal book to you.
Yes, it is.
Tell us about that. So just tell us what you want to.
Right. Well, it was a very cathartic book for me to write. Although it is fictionalized, there is a lot of truth in the book, and it's something that split my family very much apart, and it's been an ongoing thing, really. And I never intended to upset people when I wrote it, but unfortunately, it did upset 2 of my nieces who no longer speak to me. But yeah, I don't regret writing it. As I say, it was very cathartic, and it helped me to come to terms with things that had happened. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did. What I liked about it is, like you said, all of your books feature a crime. But the point of yours is there was like a little bit about the crime, wasn't there? Kind of at the sort of bookends of the book, so to speak. But a lot of it was about the characters and the relationships between them.
Yes. All of my books really are relationship based, and all of them do have crime in them, but crime is not for the most part, it's not the central thing. And I don't write about police procedures. There are bits and pieces because one of my son-in-laws is a policeman. So I didn't have to do any research on that. I would just, ask him questions. But catching the criminals is not a big deal for me. It is the relationship and the outcomes, of that.
Yeah, that's what I thought was really interesting, because characters should drive the story. I think, and in yours they really did, and the sort of relationships between the family were very important.
Mm. And I mean, I was born in Birmingham and grew up here, and so I write, about places in Birmingham, some of which are real and people will recognise them. Others are places where I don't want them to be recognised, so I make the districts up, and yeah, I've enjoyed doing that. There's a lot of imagination goes into them, especially my last book. The first book that we published was the Copper Connection. And it was really an idea that came to myself and my wife when we were talking in the car on the way to work when we worked in Liverpool. And it was really about could somebody commit murder and still live and still feel and be a normal person, if you know what normal is. That they were able to do that and just live an ordinary life within their family and live a double life basically, and until a certain point where they've done what they needed to do. So it really is it's about revenge, but it's about justice as well.
So with all your books, do you start with a concept like that when you're writing?
No, I don't think I do really. I mean, the other one that springs immediately to mind was the one that I started writing years and years ago. After doing the Copper Connection, I finished writing the one called Sally. It is, again, there is some truth in it, because I might as well say now, the picture on the front is of my mum when she was 18. It's a picture that comes up in the story, and it goes from when she was a little girl, and the fact that something happened to make her father bring her to Birmingham away from Lincoln. And it isn't, she then is fostered by a family in Birmingham, and it's how she grows up in that family. And then it switches to what the secrets are. Her father, he never divulges anything about her mother. And as time goes on, Sally grows up, and all the things that have been in the past, the secrets can come out, and she never truly finds out what happened in various instances. And she has quite a large family, and is in an abusive relationship. So that carries on until, unfortunately, she becomes ill. And she never knows that she's an only child, she thinks, but in actual fact, she has siblings. And it's unfortunate, really, that it's right at the end of the book that I say she meets them. So I don't know whether to divulge the fact that she never did meet them. So, it was me that met them, but it was after she died. So it is fictional. It is very much so.
So we've got before I ask you any more questions, we've got some hellos. We've got one from Sam, one from Donna, one from Laura, and one from a Facebook user. I'm presuming is possibly Lesley, because she doesn't always come up with her name.
Right.
And they're all saying hello. I know what to think.
Hi.
So a lot of your books feature quite kind of close-knit large families. Do you come from quite a large family, or?
I do, yeah. I'm one of 8, one of which is a half brother who I didn't actually meet until I was about 14 because he was adopted. Mum had him while my father was away in Ceylon, it was at the time. And it was just one of the things to us. We just absorbed it, But yeah, we come from a very close-knit, large family until something happened that did split us apart, which was very sad. And still can affect me quite deeply.
Yeah, I can imagine. My mum is one of 8.
Wow. Yeah. So, I was sort of the eldest in the second lot after the war. And you do look after your siblings, don't you? And help out with everything.
I only have one sibling, so I can't tell you.
Right. Okay. Okay.
But yeah.
So is your sibling younger or older?
Older by 10 years. That's why there's only one other one.
Right. Yeah. Do you find you actually have much in common when there's 10-year gap like that?
Yes and no. Like, yes, when we were little. Yeah, I think at times. Probably as adults less so, but just because your lives take you different ways.
Well, they do, yeah. Yeah. I've still got 2 siblings, both of which I don't really see anything of, but that's okay.
Right, so you've got some fantasy books as well.
I have, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about those.
Well, they're the 2 books that I enjoyed writing most, really. I was able to just let go of everything to do with family and yeah, just go where my imagination took me. When we went to a writers' conference in Edinburgh, and because I'm disabled, I went on a mobility scooter onto the train, and it was actually a really great journey. And on the train, I sat right at the end, and I was looking at the people in the carriage, and I sort of had a feeling that I wondered what they were each thinking, and then the idea came to me of perhaps I'd be able to see what they were thinking. And that led me to wonder how I could bring that about. And so it starts off with me dying um, on the train journey and going to what I call the way station. And there I was given a choice to come back and do certain things or to sort out the lives of 4 people that were in the train. And I would be able to be helped by seeing their thoughts. And I wrote that book, as I say, quite quickly. And it is all fantasy, and there is very much an element, although I don't go into heaven and earth, but there's very much an element of evil and good, which I go into in depth. I'm not somebody who believes very strongly in any structured religion, but I do believe in a power. So I didn't find that difficult. And the way station, I absolutely loved it. I could have lived there. So I enjoyed that. When I got to the end of that book, I left it so that I could possibly carry on. So I did do that. But unfortunately, at the end of the first book, it's just prior to the pandemic. I didn't want to ignore the fact that we had the pandemic, but I also didn't want to make it so that it was dreadful the way it has been. So I chose to write about a virus, not that virus, just a virus that had beneficial effects. The beneficial effects didn't come instantaneously, but they developed in people's brains, and people were able to open up parts of the brain that they'd never been able to use. So it goes past the virus and continues on to the type of world that was better for the environment, and just different things that my imagination came up with that would improve all our lives, really, and not just in this country but worldwide. And it carried on to 2073, where Tomorrow's Children came in, which is the title of the book. And it talked about the powers that the children have. So yeah, pure fantasy. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
What are you writing at the moment?
At the moment, I'm about a third of the way through a book. At the moment, it's called Willow, but I don't think that will continue to be the title at the end. It's because I chose to, I love the name Willow, and I decided I wanted to call a character Willow. So that is the little girl's name in it. But it's not really so much about her. It's about her mother, really. And it's about the development of there's somebody in it, and I have to do a lot more research about this. There's somebody in it who is adopted. And I know exactly where it's going. In fact, I don't have any doubt. And this adopted person has been abused. And I don't want to give things away, really.
No,
but,
don't. Absolutely not give things away.
It's just what happens to him as well as to Willow in the end. But I haven't been well. So I'm finding it more difficult at the moment to settle to write, and I really tend to write more in the mornings. But I've been sort of not feeling that well, so I've been lazing about quite a bit. But I'm sure I will finish it. It's I'm enjoying writing it.
So tell us a little bit about how you go about publishing your books, because there's an unsung hero that we've not mentioned yet, haven't we?
There is. I'm just, as I said to you, not good with technology. I'm quite happy writing, but I'm very fortunate that my wife is far more technologically minded than me, and I started writing properly again when she was doing an Open University course, and we used to sit at, well, we still do sit at desks side by side, and all the while she was doing the university course, I was writing, and then when she finished that, she would edit my books, and then she would format them again, and then she had to find out how to go about publishing them, because we decided that there was little point in me trying to publish them traditionally because of my disabilities, etc., and poor health. I would not be able to do the things that, excuse me, like going to book fairs and book signings and things, and I wasn't sure how. I just wasn't sure that I would be able to comply with what I knew would be their wishes. So Sue was really great that she found out how you go about it, and just did it. I was full of admiration. We chose the book covers ourselves, and I still like and the book covers. And she's continued to be a great partner for me with the books. What I do when I write is, excuse me, I tend to write longhand on a pad. And then when I've reached a point where I think, right, I've had enough of that, I will type it into Word. And I sort of, as I'm going along, then I'm editing it. And then my next thing is I will listen to Word reading it. So I'm editing again. And then I will read a chapter that I've just written to Sue, who will point out maybe some things that aren't quite right, or, a bit of difficulty. And I'll edit all that again. And that's the way we've always gone on, So by the time it gets to the end of me writing the book and going through it 2 or 3 times in editing, and then Sue goes through it again, and then we have a couple of people who read it for us, and that's the way we go on, really. So we haven't, I don't think we've approached many people to actually help us out with these things, which has been good, because it's we can't really afford loads of money to do that. Other people seem to get quite bogged down with that sort of thing. And yeah, that's the way it goes, really.
Who decides the titles of the books?
Well, I do, really. Yeah, I do. But if Sue disagreed with something, she would say, and I would probably listen, at least some of the time. And Sue also tends to write, what's it called? The synopsis. Sue tends to write the synopsis rather than me, because she's got a more analytical mind, really, and she can see through. She can condense things much better than I can. Sorry, the blurb. She said it's the blurb.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we do.
So how do you go about marketing your books?
That is a difficult one. Again, Sue has worked very hard at finding out ways to do that. We have at times, joined different groups and that to that say they're going to help, etc., and you pay them, and you don't really get much further than things that we can work out for ourselves anyway. So it's very difficult for us. We still write, very naive, really. So we haven't really done an awful lot. There's things about, I always use my Facebook and Messenger and things like that. I was listening about TikTok. Apparently, you can go on TikTok and do things, but I didn't realise that until recently. So we haven't done anything yet. I do have a web page. Sorry, a website. See what I mean? I have to take notice, really. Sue is 9 years younger than me, so yeah, she's a lot more sort of, yeah, I'm getting sort of, as I said before, a bit long in the tooth now. So it's quite useful.
Yeah, book talk is apparently a thing.
Book talk?
Yeah, it's like the bookish corner of TikTok.
Oh, right.
Apparently it's like quite a thing.
Right.
I have no idea, because I tried TikTok for 2 minutes and hated it.
Well, I've never been on TikTok. I have a friend that used to do daft things with the daughter on TikTok, and I quite enjoy seeing her do that. But I've never really done that. So, but that's something we'll Sue's sticking a thumb up. We will explore that.
I'm hoping to book someone in to do a bit of a live stream about the authors using it.
Right. Yeah, that would be good, because at least then that they're not doing it just to make money. I know people need to run a business and make money, but it's whether it's worthwhile or not if you have a limited budget.
Laura Hamilton wants to know, as your books are a standalone, is there one in particular that you would suggest she begins with?
Excuse me. It depends whether she wants a longer read or a shorter read. I would say Sally is a good book to start with if you want to read, a decent wedge of book. Otherwise, I would think that the one that you have just read, which is One Child Too Many, it became a number one. So, and it is still the most popular book because we do sell books. One of my greatest thing every morning is to see what our books have done overnight, and we really only sell in this country. We've sold a couple in other countries, but only this country. And of course, we could do with developing that. And now I've lost the thread, Kaz, of what I was saying. So,
Are the majority of your books set in Birmingham?
They're all set in Birmingham. But as I say, some are imaginary, Birmingham, and others aren't. Yeah. Although I say they're all set in Birmingham, they are. But I don't stay in Birmingham with them. We go to places like Kent, and the latest one I'm writing is about Colorado. So the family go to Colorado. In fact, that was the last lot I was writing. And other places that I've been over the years. So it doesn't all stay in Birmingham.
Does your author website have pictures of like some of the locations you've used on it?
No, I'm not really sure what you said then.
Does your author website have pictures of like the locations that your books are at?
No. I mean, to be quite honest with you, as I've said, everything's been quite condensed because producing 7 books in that amount of time has been the main thing that we've done, and then I'm sure really that we'll continue to develop things like that. I've got my my website, and that needs to be developed even more than it is. Do I have an author page?
On Amazon you do. Well,
on Amazon I do.
You've got an author.
But we really are quite naive, Kaz. So we'll see how things develop. We're still quite... I suppose the pandemic was wonderful for us because we never went out for 18 months because I'm so vulnerable. And we developed such a good relationship with our neighbours who did our shopping for us for 18 months with no trouble whatsoever. So we didn't have to go out, and we were able to just sit and work on books and genealogy as well, because we enjoyed doing that. Yeah.
How far have you traced your family history back?
I actually traced my mum back to a tentative 1537. And but it is tentative, I must admit. It was a reverend somebody, and But I did, as far back as you can go, to, where is it, something like 1846 is complete, you know. But I'm not really interested any more than that. I know what I wanted to know. And Sue and I lived on the Wirral at the time when we did that as well. And we sat again side by side for practically 12 months doing very little else. So it was good fun.
Yeah, it often is. My dad's really into doing our family tree.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, that can become costly as well if you're doing ancestry. I also did a DNA thing as well. So I get feedback from third to fifth cousins and things like this, you know. And I keep thinking, shall I get in touch with them? And then I think, no, don't, you know, get so bogged down. My relatives that from Sally, excuse me, that my mum unfortunately didn't see. There was one called Auntie Lou, who lived down in by Kent, and she actually flew up to meet us and stayed, and it was lovely. So sometimes family can be, you know, even when you don't know them, all of a sudden they can be lovely.
So I can see in the background a child in the window. Do you want to tell us a bit about that one?
The Child in the Window actually is quite different. It's a book about an imaginary part of Birmingham, although it does sort of go to Birmingham City occasionally and things like that. But it's about a road of houses. There are 10 houses, and it's about each family that live in that terraced house. There's no traffic up the middle of it, and it ends in a factory wall. And it's the interaction really between all these families, because they know everything about each other until there's an airline pilot in it who owns 3 houses and rents them, and he rents one to this woman who comes into it. And again, I'm not going to give any more away, but she is totally different to anybody in the street, and she makes a hell of a time of it there, really. But it is the interaction as well between all of these people. And there's a character in it called Guy, who he does something very important, but I don't divulge what it is he does. So it keeps you guessing right the way through the book, really.
Sounds good. When you start writing, I'm going to ask you the classic author question of, are you a plotter or a pantser? Do you like plot your book out in advance or make it up as you go?
I tend to know pretty well, or I think I know pretty well, where the book is going. And then I find that all of a sudden something happens and the book doesn't quite go where I think it's going. Characters appear, and I don't really know why they've appeared. So it actually develops in places that I don't realise it's going to develop. But I'm quite happy with that, you know. But I nearly always have an end to aim at, and it usually gets there.
Which books most surprised you then along the way? Which ones sort of changed the most?
I think really the Copper Connection. I think the Copper Connection. I never had the ending of that in my mind. I knew where I wanted to go with it. But I think I had surprises with that one all the way along.
What kind of, because your books are so character based, which, like we said, is one of the strengths of them, what kind of research do you have to do?
Well, in a way, I've been quite lucky because with Sally, Sue did a lot of research for me as we were going along. In fact, she did so much research that wasn't wanted. And I think we learned a lesson from that I only need to research things that are relevant. I have a problem with dates, keeping the timelines right. And again, this Sue helps me sometimes with that. But if I come across, I've found things, depending on when I'm writing about, things that to me seem ordinary, like Messenger and things like that, and realizing that they didn't exist at the time I'm writing about. So I've had to be very careful about things like that and do the research properly for things like that. The book that I'm writing now, I know I need to do quite a bit more research on that one, more than I've ever done. A lot of my research has been I've been able to just do online or with people I know who know about these things, and it hasn't been very onerous really, but it will be.
We do have a file, if it helps, of useful people in the group that have like expertise and all sorts of things.
I do have one contact. I asked recently for some help with about adoption rules and regulations, and I was kindly given a phone number for when I'm ready for it to ring up, and they should be able to answer my questions. Other than that, I've never really asked for anything.
No, it's fine. I know that a lot of authors do kind of, if they've got a question for a book, just pop it into the group and there's normally someone who will answer.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did do. And I was very, pleased that I did get a few answers actually. But to have that phone number handy, I know when I can get back to it, that will be very useful.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what do you do when your books are launched? Do you have like a celebration?
No. No. Um, we just say, oh, whoopee, and that's about it, really. No, I don't think we've ever really had a celebration. In fact, I suppose when I've seen other people, it's the day their stuff is being launched. I felt quite envious, really, but we've never done that. I suppose in part it was because they have all until this year. I mean, we published the last one this year. They've all been published during the pandemic, so we weren't going out anywhere. We certainly weren't having people coming in. Even my family would come to the window and have a chat through the window, and that was it really. Because as I say, I do have a good reason not to have contact with people. So yeah, It's a good job Sue and I get on very well. So we're content with each other's company. So that's about it, really.
It's one of the good things about the pandemic, isn't it? If you've got someone that you get on with really well, me and my husband always had this. It's kind of good that we live with each other.
Yeah.
You know, because you've got someone for companionship that you get on with.
Yeah, but we've done this, you know. I don't know whether people would find it interesting, but ever since we got together, which has been 38 years ago, we have spent, other than the time I've been in hospital, we've spent 24/7 together, possibly in the same room most of the time. And it's great. I mean, we were friends before we got together, we were friends for probably 4 years. We worked at the same place. And yeah, it's just been good.
So if you could have a launch party, you know, if one miraculously happened for you, what would be your dream kind of launch event?
I honestly don't know. I suppose for me and for Sue, it would be going out for a nice meal somewhere. You know, I think we've gone past we've always had a large family and big family celebrations here. We've always done that. Christmases has been, 13 for dinner and this sort of thing, tables put together. But I think we've reached a point now where we've actually calmed it down a lot because the families have grown further apart, not unfriendly, but they, like, as I said, there's a big section of the family gone to Scotland. So that's not going to happen. And the pandemic really crushed a lot of that sort of thing carrying on. So I don't know. I don't know what we would want. I'm not sure I would want a big party here. I think going out for a meal and with a few loved ones would possibly be it, really.
That's often a popular answer when we ask for that question.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't really know when people write things about pre-launches and stuff. I've never really done that sort of thing. We come to the point where we're going to publish the book and Sue just says, right, it's there now. So that's been it, really.
So I'm going to ask you some of the group favourite questions.
Okay.
You've been pleasantly warmed up now, so you can have some of the group favourite questions.
Okay.
Right. The first one's, have you ever acted out a scene as you've written it?
No. Only in my head. I did recently listen to one of your interviews with I'm sorry, I really can't remember her name, but she tied her husband up on the floor to see if he could actually get out, stand up with all this tying up round him. And I thought, oh my God, I wouldn't even think about doing something like that.
That's not even the craziest answer we've had. That was Abigail.
That's right. It was Abigail. Yeah. No, I can't imagine it, and I can't imagine Susan allowing me to, experiment on her either. So I don't think so.
I mean, they can take all forms. There's a lady who, Victoria, who her son built her a Lego house with like all the characters so she could move them around and check that they weren't, in the wrong room and things.
Yeah.
It's quite a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
It's not just people who tie their husbands up.
I was just fascinated by that, actually. The most I think I've gone to is actually drawing out a map of the street that I was talking about, and saying which family lived in where and, you know, the surrounds, so that it made it clear, you know. But other than that, I'm being given this. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the child in the window one. Thank you.
So did you print the map in it so that people could picture the street as well?
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, Sue did. I'm making myself sound actually quite, I don't know, ignorant really, but I can do lots of other things, you know.
You're making yourself sound like a good team.
We are a good team. Yeah, we certainly have been. Yeah.
I think that's more how it comes across.
Yeah. Well, I'm the driver as well. Sue doesn't drive. And you know what? I thank goodness she doesn't drive, because I have never known a passenger have so much road rage in my life as she does. She's dreadful. There's me driving along calmly and people do things on the road. And Sue's getting really agitated and angry. And I'm just sitting there thinking, oh, you know, that's what happened. So if she drove, I don't know where she'd be, I'm sure.
Another one of our group favourite questions is, what's your most memorable moment as an author?
I think when One Child Too Many became #1, and we were very excited about that. One of the things really that's quite funny, I wrote for one of my grandchildren. I wrote a book because she called herself a name that included our name. Her name is Poppy, and she called herself Poppy Penelope Elliot Perks, right? And I just found that so sweet of her. So I wrote this book about Poppy, and I called her Pop-Up. And I wrote it about this alien, and I drew the alien. Is it there? Here it is. I drew the alien. It's called a Hansix, and then I wrote about him, and because he's an alien, he was capable of doing all sorts of things, and she loved the little book. But I think one of the nicest things was it's obviously a children's book. Say for around about, I think Poppy was about 10 when I wrote it, and I read one of the reviews, and this woman said it was a lovely story. She said, and I know it's supposed to be a children's book. She said, but this 67-year-old child absolutely loved it. And I thought that was one of the nicest things.
There's nothing wrong with it. I love reading kids' books.
Do you?
Read quite a lot, young adult and kids' books.
Yeah. I think I used to read the Dr. Seuss things when I was young. Yeah, The Cat in the Hat and things like that. But my main things to read have been Stephen King, you know, and Dean Koontz and things like that. They were the main sort of things. And recently, I mean, I have absolutely loved Sweet Pea by C.J. Scoos, and the other 2 books in the series as well. Sorry. And yeah, Fanny Flagg. Have you read hers? Fried Green Tomatoes. Did you see
I've seen the movie of Fried Green Tomatoes, but I don't think I've ever read the book.
I loved it, and she has written more along the same lines, and I've recently read all those again as well. So I don't know. I think they're a bit quirky, the books that I like, really. Yeah.
Have you read Lessons in Chemistry?
No.
Lessons in Chemistry is probably my favourite book of the year so far.
Oh, I'm going to write that down then. Oops. I've got paper sticking to me.
And it's quite quirky.
Right.
If you like a quirky book, you might like it.
Who's it by?
Bonnie Garmus.
Right. I do like to, suddenly have the recommendations sometimes on the site. So there's so many of them that I keep thinking, am I going to like that one? Am I going to like that one? And Val McDermid, I absolutely loved her books. And she's got a new one out, I think, at the moment, which I will buy next. But yeah, it's so nice to see all these different authors, but trying to choose, which ones to buy, it's very difficult.
It can be very expensive, can't it, our group, when people start recommending books?
That's right, yeah.
I found the thing that works for me is there are certain people in the group whose reviews I know sort of generally match my taste.
Right.
So if they say they've really enjoyed something, and I've read it before and I've really enjoyed it, like I'll know, like if it comes up a few times, I'll be like, oh, they've got similar taste. And then if they recommend a book, that's
you'll buy it. Yeah.
What I would buy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think
I pay more attention to.
Yeah, Chris Carter was recommended, and I think it was Chris Carter, and I read his first book, and I was absolutely open-mouthed, because it was so detailed and gory, and I had to read the rest of them then. There's no doubt that, but generally I wouldn't read books that are that detailed, that gory. I just feel sometimes it's not as necessary as I want.
Is there kind of a topic you wouldn't write about then? Are there things that you wouldn't approach?
No, it's not. I don't think I'd even think of doing it because I think I'm quite capable of doing it, believe me. But I don't know. There seems to be so much of it. And I think sometimes people seem to push and push and push. It's got to be worse than the one before and worse than the one before. So I'm not sure I can join that bandwagon. And the same as I've really appreciated Val McDermid, but I'm not a lover of books that have detectives who've got something going on in their own life that is so awful, and I'm not that keen. And I think there's an awful lot of books like that about as well. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I tend to veer more towards the cozy crime end of the spectrum. As a reader.
Yeah.
With the odd sort of visit into things like Ben Aranovic's Rivers of London and things.
Rivers of London, I actually read that one recently, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I love those books.
Yeah, I mean that was quirky, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Have you read Sweet Pea? You might enjoy that one.
I think it's on my TBR pile, to be fair.
Are those all your books that you've got to read?
No, these are the husband's books.
Right.
They're mostly sci-fi behind me. My TBR pile's downstairs.
Yeah. I mean, we used to have loads and loads and loads of books everywhere. And when we moved from the Wirral back to Birmingham, we did get rid of a lot of them. And there are times now when I think we kept things like the Anna McCaffrey books. Have you read those? The Dragon books? No. Excuse me. They would have been wonderful films but she wouldn't allow people to have the copyright of them. But they would have been good.
That makes sense, though. I can think some people don't really dislike like any adaptations, don't they? Alan Moore
That's right.
was notorious for hating any adaptation of his books.
And you're not really going to get people who are making films stick strictly to the storyline, are you really?
No, and sometimes even if you get someone who you think is perfect for the adaptation, they don't do a good job.
No.
Which I think is interesting. It's always one of those things, isn't it? You know, if you're an author, would you let people make a TV series of your books, or would you want to keep it to yourself?
No, they can make films of my books anytime. I think Catherine Cookson comes to mind. And I have loved her books. It's been a long while since I've read one, but I used to love the films they made from her books. Did you see any of them? I mean, am I showing my age here? I am, aren't I?
No, I think I have seen some back in the day, and I think my mum used to like her books.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think.
I've probably read some because I used to read, like, I read precociously young, and I used to read all sorts of things that I shouldn't have read at ridiculously young ages. So I probably have read some.
All right.
I just used to steal things off people's bookshelves.
Sounds ideal to me. I lived in Acotts Green when I was young, and I loved the library there. And I would spend ages there, just sitting and reading books there, and Enid Blyton books and stuff. Just love them. Yeah. Those are the things I cut my teeth on.
I think a lot of crime readers will go back to like Enid Blyton, won't they? Nancy Drew.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Can't beat them. We have 3 minutes left.
You are joking. That has gone so quickly.
Didn't I tell you would be fine? And we're going to finish off with a reminder about your book. So tell us a little bit more about you and your books. Show off the book covers because everyone who's been watching.
Well, I'm going to pick them up. And these are the two fantasy books. Love and Beyond, which has a wonderful way station. It doesn't tell you what exactly happens, where you eventually go after you die, but it takes you to the way station. And this one is the sequel to it that takes you into 2073. So I love these books. The Child in the Window is the latest one that I showed you the map, because it is important really to give you a reminder of where these people are. And they're all different. There's a wonderful character in there that she has a dog that she talks to. She's on her own. It's just Grace the way she is. One Child Too Many is the one that became a bestseller and continues to be bought and read mainly. This is the one that caused me to get into trouble. So, it's probably my favourite book, really. Sally is, as you can see, a thicker book with my beautiful mummy on the front, and it does say about the picture inside. As you can see, it's really a very tatty book, tatty film. Sorry, tatty picture, because of being carried throughout the war in somebody's wallet. And the Copper Connection, which has got a different cover on it now, because I wanted to put something on that was more graphic, that it was a book that was threatening, you know, a book that was to be not taken lightly. In fact, this is the version of it. And this really is the one it's about revenge.
Are you just reading the back down?
I am actually, yeah. Yeah, because it's about a girl called Heather who has just become a midwife, and something happens to her right at the beginning, and it's what she does about it. Where she ends up in hospital, but she could have told the police, and she wouldn't tell the police. She wanted to put things right herself. So that's that one as well. And then, of course, there's a kiddies book, The Hansicks. So is there anything else I can tell you, Kaz?
No, all that is left to be to say, and Donna and Laura have said it lovely. They've said thank you both.
Thank you.
And so thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.
Okay.